Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Great to have you here, as always. And on today's Training Thursday show, we're actually going to talk about this more from the standpoint of what happens when you don't have a lot of energy. The energy to exercise, the energy to think clearly, the energy to brush off that brain fog or grogginess in the morning, or the energy to really fulfill that which you desire in life. So I want to go over this today from really a 30,000-foot view of how to use the de-stress protocol, exactly where to start to move forward in order to overcome fatigue, brain fog, and low mood. And the reason why I wanted to do this is that I know, and I knew I should say ahead of time, that when I went over yesterday's show, the 3 telltale signs of burnout, that there would be follow-up questions. It's okay, what do I do next? And so, of course, I wanted to always bring you what you can do in order to boost the mood, really be able to overcome fatigue, and with that, of course, brain fog as well. Do keep in mind, whenever there is brain fog, there is typically some type of fatigue within the physiology of the body as well. So we might feel like, oh, there's brain fog to do with my brain, but not necessarily. Remember, your brain is connected to your body. So what we look at first is the understanding that there's something going on with your nervous system in terms of stress and your hormones. And I'm not going to get deep into that at all today. And the reason is this. We've gone over this now the past couple weeks, so I would love you to listen to episode 1489 and then yesterday's show, which is also episode 1503. So at least those two would be a big one. And actually the most important one, I forgot to mention this yesterday, so for sure, the most important one is episode 1481, which is exactly how your body breaks down under stress. That will teach you exactly what happens, and that's one of the more important shows because people say inflammation is at the root of most disease, but it's not true at all. I mean, inflammation is not at the root of most disease, but inflammation is connected with almost every disease. So there's the connection there, but inflammation doesn't come from just out of the blue. It comes from specific areas of the body. And so if we're looking at true root causes, well, we need to look at the body under stress. And that's why that episode 1481, I really can't recommend enough to learn about your physiology. Because if you don't know how your body works, how could you know how to put it back together? Or also, how do you know if the practitioner you're working with has the knowledge to put you on the plan that's going to help you, right? I mean, that's really important. And make no mistake about it. I want people to get guidance. I'm not just saying that. Yes, listen to the podcast, understand that, but guidance and a plan is not something that I often talk about, I guess, but it's not something to be overlooked. It's not at all. And you'll see that, well, really coming this month and in April, we're going to try to make our schedules more available as well to be able to do phone calls with people to really take that to that next level too. And of course, all of our integrative health practitioners practice what we preach and I preach every day on the Cabral Concept. So they too have that understanding of the de-stress protocol. And right now we have over 1,200 integrative health practitioners. You can find them all over the world. So people ask, well, where should I go to find a practitioner? Well, integrativehealthpractitioner.org will allow you to find people that follow the system that I teach every day in the Cabral Concept and that I've been fortunate enough to learn from the best of the best all around the world as well. Well, today what I want to share with you now is the de-stress protocol and how you would actually structure that for someone with fatigue. So they're tired, right? They're tired. They wake up groggy. They need caffeine. They're slow moving throughout the day. Maybe they get a couple hours from like 11 to 2 o'clock or so, and they start to get tired again after that. So they're really, really important. And that's because I see that all the time in my private practice, and I know that other practitioners see the same. So there's that, the brain fog. Well, the brain fog comes along with hormonal-based disruption. It can come with lower cortisol output, like your body just never wakes up. I mean, that's a big one. Low thyroid, for sure. sure. Food sensitivities, higher levels of histamine and allergies. Anybody that's ever had allergies, trust me, you know how tired you feel and also the brain fog that comes along with that. And then there's also, of course, lower levels of dopamine, which is a very important neurotransmitter that enables us to feel pleasure, but also ambition, drive as well. And then, of course, I keep saying of course, but it's not of course. But also testosterone was one. Like for women, we don't want high testosterone. For men, we don't want high testosterone. But low testosterone is debilitating. Low testosterone really removes your drive, your energy, your ambition, your libido, your ability to just get out there and take action. So that is an alpha-based hormone. But again, it doesn't have to be taken too far. You simply want a healthy level of testosterone. So if women run the stress, mood, and metabolism test and they look at their testosterone levels, well, I mean, ideally, we want that between like a 20 and a 40, right? Somewhere right around there. 16 is okay, but 20 to 40. And for men, depending on your age, well, we want that above 110 if you're under 30, above 100 if you're in your 30s, and when you're in your 40s, we want that at a 90, and then we simply take off about 10 points for every decade is how we look at it in our practice. There's obviously pluses and minuses. It also depends on how the person's feeling. Like is maybe 88 for that person at 43 years old is actually a healthy level for them because they didn't start with a high level of testosterone in life anyway, so they feel pretty good at an 88, where someone else who's that same age would actually feel pretty down, pretty depressed, pretty low mood. So there's bioindividuality to all of this, and of course that's taken into account as well. All right, so let's really move now. Well, the last part I had to talk about is the low mood, and I just kind of went into that. So the low mood is absolutely affected by energy. Remember, if you have good energy, oftentimes your mood is better because here's the thing. This is one of the secrets, I guess, that nobody ever really tells you. And I talked about this. Let's see where I talked about this. Well, I talked about it last Monday, so 1487. I guess that was a couple Mondays ago. Yeah, I mean, that was a big one. So here's the thing, though. It's very difficult to want to make more of your life and pursue your passions or even feel any passion when you have low energy. You just don't want to do anything extra. And again, that was yesterday's show. So I do hope that you tuned into yesterday's show because I really talk about those 3 telltale signs of burnout. And yesterday's show is actually dedicated to 3 mood-based failings. All right, so check out that show. Now let's give you some actual action that you can move forward with the de-stress protocol. And again, I give everything that I do in my private practice away. I tell you exactly what we do because I just know, my goal. So not everybody knows this, but previous to 2017, I was in my private practice, of course, with my team. We were doing 20,000 client appointments a year. And that's why we quickly surpassed over 250,000 client appointments. And of course, it's amazing. Very, very grateful for that. Very happy to be able to help that many people. And it was all local. I mean, for the most part, it was 90% people in Boston and then 10% of people around the Boston area. So it could be in New Hampshire, it could be in maybe a little lower Maine, it might be in Rhode Island. And people would travel to Boston and they would meet with me or my team. And of course, we would help them. And that was our goal. That's what we wanted to do. That's what we aim to do even to this day. And then as I started to do the podcast, it started to be, 10% from people all over the world. And of course, in Boston too, people would fly in and they would stay at one of the hotels and we would work with them for a few days. And so that was great. But then, of course, the podcast, I keep saying, of course, okay, I'm now going to cut that out of my vocabulary. So here's what I want to share with you, though. It started to become more people virtual based. And my goal all of a sudden switched. And I said that instead of meeting with 20,000 people per year, my goal was to actually reach 20,000 plus people per day. And it was a crazy goal, but we achieved that on the podcast just a little while ago. And so my goal now is to say, okay, every day on the podcast, we're going to teach you exactly what we do. And then I came up with a playbook in 2000 and I guess it was 18 now, called the Rain Barrel Effect. So if you want all of this in depth, essentially the podcast is free. All profits from the book, The Rain Barrel Effect, go to charity. So that's my starting point for you, right? And then I say, okay, after that, if you want a lab test, great, you'll get a personalized plan. But you can use the knowledge that you get, I believe, from the show and today's show to know where to start. And then you can work with your own local functional medicine doctor or integrative health practitioner, whatever works for you. But you need a starting point, and that starting point is the de-stress protocol. The reason why I mention that is there is no silver bullet. There's no one thing. I'm almost guaranteeing you that if you're not well, and you're really struggling to lose weight, and you've been struggling with these things for a while, diet alone is not going to be the answer. People always just like, they comment, again, they're well-meaning, and I get it. They're well-meaning, they're like, oh, you just need to eat a whole food diet. Well, that's not true. And that's actually really condescending and demeaning to people that have struggled with their weight their whole life, or at least for 10 years, 15 years, or they've been trying to get well for a while and they've been trying to eat very cleanly. They're like, oh, well, you're just missing what you need to be doing. It's just not true. When the body is shifted too far in one direction because of the nervous system, the endocrine system, which are the hormones, or the immune system, diet alone is not going to fix it. I'm sorry, but it's not. I tried it myself. Many other people have tried it. For some, it will work. And that's simply because your diet was not that clean in the first place. And so now you switch to a elimination-based diet, and okay, you're feeling much better. And I agree, like, hey, if your issue is gluten or dairy and you eliminate those two, well, you're going to feel a whole lot better. It may or may not, though, fix your current situation. So that's why we have the de-stress protocol. Then the first part is diet. So what do we do for diet if someone's dealing with a lot of fatigue? And I'm going to give you high level here. I can't give you the exact diet for you, but I can tell you this. A lot of people are on tremendously low carb diets. That typically means 50 grams or less per day. Okay, so that's what qualifies for the most part for a low carb diet. And they don't actually have the energy from the body's primary fuel source, which is carbohydrates. By the way, that's a fact. That's not an opinion, okay? That's a fact. The body can make ketones. The body can break down protein and actually use those amino acids to turn into sugar, glycogen. But make no mistake about it, the brain's primary fuel source and preferred fuel source, as well as the body's, is glycogen. Now, it also burns body fat as well. Our bodies can work aerobically and anaerobically, and they tap into multiple fuel sources that I'm just not going to get into today in terms of creatine, phosphorus. Like, we don't need to get into that. But we want to be able to provide the body with the proper fuel. So this does mean a very balanced diet, and it typically does mean 3 meals per day. You can still do a 12, 14, or maybe even 16-hour intermittent fast, and I do recommend at least 12, but we don't want to go too long for the body if it needs fuel, especially if it's under stress. So what I want people to do is really follow a balanced diet from the beginning, and do make sure they're not depriving them of any macronutrient, which is your carbs, fat, or protein. The other thing that I want to make sure is that you're getting your micronutrients. And that means your diet has to supply you with all the vitamins and minerals and amino acids as well. We'll get to a little bit of more of that in a moment. Now, I have plenty of podcasts on how a sample days meal plan for a vegan-based diet. I have sample day meal plans for a paleo-based diet. And you can also just look at our detox base plan and see what a very simple meal plan would look like as well on days 3 through 7. Okay, the next is on exercise. Exercise is extremely important. If you do no exercise, your body actually becomes weaker and more tired. And that's because you don't need to produce more mitochondria if there's not a whole lot of work to do. And mitochondria produce at least one form of fuel called adenosine triphosphate, ATP. And ATP is what's going to allow you to climb up those 5 flights of stairs without becoming winded. Okay, that's a big part of it. Without your legs burning, because your body actually acclimates to that. And that burning the legs, believe it or not, eventually you do that enough, it will begin to produce more mitochondria. So we need that, we want that, and also that exercise keeps muscle mass in your body. Why is that important? Well, women especially begin to lose about 5 pounds of muscle mass per decade after the age of about 27 years old. So by the time 30 years pass, well, we're looking at 15 pounds less muscle. Now, their bodies may weigh the same or even more, and that's because the metabolism has lowered. Part of that is because their muscle mass is lowered. Now, they accumulate fat at an easier rate. This is men and women, by the way. But also, your ability, or I should say your susceptibility to breaking a bone, tearing a tendon or ligament goes way up. And that's because your body's untrained. It literally is weaker. And so that's why exercise is extremely important. Please go back and listen to my podcast on the 4 phases of exercise, because you can't just jump into an high intensity interval training program if you're doing nothing right now. It's not a good idea. So what you do is you start at your walking, and then you graduate to more cardio based work, and then body weight, and then you continue to work your way up. And I've done a whole podcast on that. as well. So again, all of these topics are covered in depth, but what you need to do and why this helps you overcome fatigue is that you actually need to slowly increase what are called hormetic stresses on your body. Now, if you overdo it, like a cold bath right away for someone that's really, really tired and chronically fatigued, well, that to them is much too stimulatory. They might end up the next day with swollen glands or what's called myalgic encephalitis-based symptoms where they have flu-like symptoms. I mean, this is the truth for very, very sick people. So we ease into it, right? We graduate with a little bit more stress, so maybe they can do 10 minutes of a sauna, but not 30. Right? So they do 10 minutes, and that's great too. And you just continue to graduate your stress until you're not sore the next day, until you feel okay, and typically taking a day off in between your workouts, at least in the beginning. And this is the way that we improve our overall exercise, step by step. Remember, I mean, you'll be outside at the end of 12 months. If you really follow a program, I mean, you'll be outside doing interval-based sprints, you'll be swinging kettlebells, you'll be throwing around sandbags if you want to. Just allow yourself to get there, right? Allow yourself to get there. It's not a race, right? There's no competition. It's just you versus you and you for you. Okay. The next part is we need to reduce stressors, right? So the de-stress protocol is diet, exercise. The next S is for reducing stressors. Why is this important? Because as we talked about yesterday and on episode 1481, we need to reduce the amount of what is called peripheral stressors. That means anything that can be stressing you and wearing you down. Well, people say, well, I can't get out of my job. It's true. I get it, right? Or I can't escape my family. Listen, I understand. But here's the thing. We have to begin to then reframe our mindsets around those specific things that we can't necessarily walk away or move from, right? So here's what we want to do. We want to start to meditate. And when we meditate, we want to focus on our breath. Those are the two most important things that you can do. When you know you're getting into a stressful-based situation, what happens is you breathe, especially down into the lower lobes of the lungs. You breathe out, that's where your focus is, and that relaxes the sympathetic nervous system. There's nothing more powerful than your breath in relaxing your nervous system, okay? There's other things that you can do. I'll talk about them in a moment in terms of reducing stress, but that is a huge one and a key one. And then also what I find is this, is find something that you actually enjoy. So that, yeah, I have to go to work. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I have these responsibilities, but I can really look forward to whatever it is. It might be reading. It might be music. It might be art. It might be relationship, like whatever it is, right? Look forward to something every day. Okay, the next one is what's called toxins, right? So de-stress. We're at DEST, and removing toxins is key. Why? Because toxins create inflammation in the body. Toxins bog down the liver. They literally congest the liver. And they also don't allow you to remove things like your own endogenous production of estrogen as quickly. So very simply put, we want to remove a lot of toxins in our life. That means that we want to be using soaps and shampoos and conditioners and all those things that I talk about in the rain barrel effect from our world. And it's an easy one-for-one switch. Okay, you can use, instead of using a body wash that has all these VOCs, volatile organic compounds in them, that basically you can just smell them, you breathe them in, it goes right in your bloodstream. Well, we could switch that body wash for a olive oil-based soap, or we could switch it for like a Dr. Bronner's-based brand. Easy, right? Easy one-for-one switches. Okay, so we have that, but also we want to remove what's already in our body. Either with a heavy metal detox or a functional medicine detox, we need to start doing these things seasonally. If our body's less weighed down with junk, literally toxins, and by the way, if anybody's skeptical of whether your body has any toxins or not, you can easily just run a Candida metabolic and vitamins-based test, which will look at if you have any gut overgrowth. You can run an environmental toxicity test. You can run a mold test. You can run a heavy metal toxicity test. Remember, like, you can prove these things to yourself if you need to. All of those are at equilibriumnutrition.com, or again with your local functional medicine practitioner that specializes in these things. But again, quarterly functional medicine detoxes, nothing better. And if you need to, heavy metal detox, mold protocol, CBO protocol for the gut, whatever it is that you need, remove those toxins from the outside and the inside of the body. All right, the next step is we need to focus on sleep. Why is sleep so important? Because those people that don't get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night typically get sick more often. They have more fatigue, less energy. They have higher levels of blood sugar, and they more likely die from one of those top 3 causes of disease, which is heart disease, higher blood pressure, as well as type 2 diabetes. So no doubt about it, we need to work on sleep. Many, many podcasts on sleep. If you go to stephencabral.com/podcasts and you click on one of those little graphics at the top, what you'll see is you'll actually find a whole, I believe there's a whole category now just on sleep. So definitely check that out and you'll be able to see many, many shows on what to do. Let's see if I can find it right here for you on how to improve your overall sleep, because there's no doubt about it. Listen, I was a complete insomniac for most of my life, and when I fixed my sleep, that was a game changer for sure. All right, it's called Sleep and Insomnia Solutions. You can just click on that, and you'll be able to see all those previous shows on sleep. Okay, so next up, besides sleep and the parasympathetic nervous system, we're working on emotions. This is a big one, and this is one of those of actually understanding, do you have trapped, hidden, toxic, and trauma-based emotions such as feelings of guilt, feelings of shame, feelings of unworthiness. All of these things at a deep subconscious level, they really chip away at you on a daily basis. They lead to anxiety, they lead to depression, they lead to panic-based disorders. And what I want you to do is begin to explore these. And I want you to explore them either with a qualified practitioner, such as a neurolinguistic programming therapist or a good hypnotherapist or a cognitive behavioral therapist or a psychologist, someone that is going to help you work through this, but also from a positive standpoint, meaning like one of the ways that I like is, okay, you do regression-based therapy. So you start to look at what happened maybe in your childhood, but you do that, you go back and you feel those feelings, but now you go back as an adult. And you go back with a different lens, because how you perceive things as a child is very, very different than how you would have as an adult. And so you're able to now experience that event again as an adult. So part of this, again, is done with regression-based therapy. You can do that with a psychologist, or you can do it with a hypnotherapist, neurolinguistic programmer, and I think that's absolutely great. But also part of the emotion is also focusing on gratitude, and it's focusing on perspective, and it's doing that journaling, and that can be tremendously beneficial. Okay, next up is supplement protocols. So we're moving into the end of our de-stress protocol. Supplements are game changers for fatigue, and here's why. You can use something like adrenal energy support at breakfast, 2 with breakfast. And if you can't sleep at night, you can use adrenal soothe at night to turn down those cortisol levels. You can use full spectrum magnesium, 2 at dinner, just like you're using 2 with the adrenal soothe. And you can do the deep sleep protocol before bed in order to unwind. I mean, really, these things are crucial for enabling your body to turn on and to turn off, because that diphasic rhythm, that circadian rhythm right now, most likely isn't working if you're tired in the morning and you're wired at night. And we work with those people all the time. Okay, especially if you're not sleeping through the night. Another big part of that is just making sure that you are getting your micronutrients on a daily basis. Too many people are overfed and undernourished. And I did a podcast on that. And that is basically, we're eating, right? We're eating all this great food, but our bodies aren't digesting it, and we're not extracting the nutrition. So that is why there's something called the daily foundational protocol. I use it myself. Not sometimes, I use it every single day. I travel with it. I do it every day in order to just keep my energy up, to keep my mood up in both body and brain. So I'm not going to go through what that is today, but basically it supplies you with all of your micronutrients for the day in terms of your vitamins, minerals, detox factors, electrolytes, 15 grams of hypoallergenic protein, 22 organic fruits and vegetables, your omega-3s, your daily probiotics. So very simply put, it's everything that you need, even if you think you have the best diet in the world. So you can check that out, equilibriumnutrition.com. It's just called Daily Foundational Protocol. There's a level 1, there's a level 2, and a level 3. Okay, one more that I want to add for you is this, is success mindset. I really don't believe anymore that there's really anything more powerful than the belief that you can be in a different place 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, than where you're at right now. Because when you are struggling, all you can see and all you can feel is the struggle. And I've been there, and it's debilitating. And it leads to panic attacks. It leads to anxiety. You feel overwhelmed. You feel like there's absolutely no way out. And I understand that. And that's because you don't know a way out. So that's what your mind is telling you. Like, listen, we have no way out of this. But here's the thing. There is always an answer. There is a way out. And I have no doubt if you stay focused on this, and I know that you will, and you suspend disbelief, and you simply believe that you will heal, or that you will lose the weight, or that you will achieve whatever it is that you're looking to in life. I just have no doubt you'll be able to accomplish it, because there's two things that you really need, is the ongoing effort, right? Because you just need to continue to push forward, sometimes even in your darkest times. And then it's just time. It's only a matter of time, because someone out there, some mentor, some coach, some doctor, some counselor, they have the answer you're looking for. And then all of a sudden it clicks in your mind. Now, it doesn't necessarily appear then the next day, whatever that goal is, but now you know how to work to it. And then you begin to work through the obstacles. You work through the challenges. It also doesn't mean that you'll be challenge free, but you will be able to succeed. And that is what the success mindset is all about. So hopefully this begins to give you a deeper understanding of how you work the de-stress protocol. And it does not have to take a ton of your time. It doesn't take a ton of time. It honestly doesn't. You have to eat anyways. You have to move that body, get 10,000 steps per day. It's not a lot. It's about an hour and a half of walking a day. But hopefully you're on your feet for an hour and a half a day. So now it's just simply walking, right? And you just continue to move through these protocols. Not a lot of time, not a lot of effort, but you do have to stay focused. And the nice thing about the de-stress protocol is that you don't have to be perfect in any one area. If you can be 80 to 90% in all of those areas, there's going to have this massive synergistic effect. And by doing that, that is how we help people heal. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, this was episode 1504. So StephenCabral.com/1504. And there's 1,503 previous podcasts that I do hope that you go back to, accumulate that knowledge. You can search at StephenCabral.com/podcast for any topic that you would like, any keyword. You can read The Rain Barrel Effect, which goes much more in depth on this. And of course, my team and I are always available. So do feel free to post any questions at CabralSupportGroup.com. That's our free Facebook group. And as always, if this show was helpful, please do feel free to pass this along to anyone it may serve. And one thing I'd be remiss if I didn't say as well is that over at integrativehealthpractitioner.org, we have an in-depth, about 30-hour course on the de-stress protocol. It's for general public that wants to learn more about it, and it's also for people that want to become certified as a health coach. Of course, this is absolutely optional, but if you really want to go in-depth on this topic and learn about customizing every step of the de-stress protocol for you, that is where I teach that. So thank you so much. Take care. Have an amazing day. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to StephenCabral.com/resources.